Hello. I'm Danika, Brysha. I'm the founder and CEO of Model Meals, and thank you for taking the time to join me for this live today. I'm gonna give people a little bit of time here to join in. Hi, you guys. Hi, Erin. Hi, Emily. I'm just letting some people join in here. Hello. Thank you guys for joining. Hi, Jamie. So I am coming live to you from Japan, from Tokyo, Japan. So if you're worried why I'm drinking coffee in the evening, it's because it's not the evening. It is technically Wednesday morning. It is about 9:30 a.m. here. So coffee is perfectly acceptable. And if you can drink coffee and go to bed, that's wonderful. So I wanted to hop on here and talk a little bit about body positivity and self-love, because as we all know, in the summer months, we tend to hear a lot of messaging around, essentially, that has a back-ended story that we are not enough exactly as we are, and that we have to look a certain way in order to go to the beach or put on a bikini or whatever it is. And one of the quotes that I'm sure you've heard, and maybe you haven't, is the way to have a bikini body is to put a bikini on your body. So on that note, I love that quote, and I prepared some things today. Actually, I have 10 different things that I wanted to go through. And we'll keep this short. It's about 30 minutes, and I think I'll just go through it and we can kind of interact throughout. So if you guys have questions that come up, you don't have to wait for the end. I'll jump into them. I'm keeping an eye on them. But I have 10 different sort of tips for cultivating a little more self-love and a little more body positivity. So hi, Barb. Amazed with my independence. So yes, for those who don't know, I'm Danika. I am the co-founder and CEO over at Model Meals, and I actually just left on a somewhat long trip to Asia by myself. So I'm coming from Tokyo right now. So I'm live in Tokyo, Japan, and then traveling all over Asia. And I will tell you guys, I am missing my Model Meals right now, because as much as the sushi is good, the gluten and the soy put me in like a whole interesting place. Hi, Stacy. Hi, Frank. Hi, Allie. Okay, cool. So, and I will share more of my travels as well. So let's talk body positivity and self-love. The first thing I want to talk about, we're going to go through these 10 tips, and then I'm open for questions all the way throughout, and at the end if they come up. So actually, let me just tell you a really quick sort of overview of my own struggles with food and body, because I think it's important to talk about before we get into this. I struggled with that my entire life. I had eating disorders. I never thought that I was enough as I was, because I was a bigger girl, and I never saw people in the media who looked like me. And I remember thinking that the only way for me to be okay, to be beautiful, to be enough, was if I was skinny or if I looked a specific way. And being skinny is a beautiful thing as well, but there's a lot of ways to be beautiful, and all bodies are beautiful. And I know that might sound cliche, but it took me a really long time to learn. And so I spent a lot of my life trying to lose weight to fit into a mold, and just really hurt myself. I ended up just wasting a lot of energy and a lot of joy, missing out on things, feeling like I couldn't show up the way I looked or wasn't enough, or accepting love that wasn't right for me, and just because I thought that's all I could have. So a lot of my negative beliefs around my body and my self-worth really impacted a lot of my life. And so by the time I graduated college, I was kind of exhausted of the obsession with food and body and all of that. And I decided I need to surrender. So I surrendered dieting, I surrendered the food rules, and just let myself settle in my natural body size. And some of you know this, I also work as a plus size model. So I say plus size because that's the technical term for the industry. Anything plus size in the industry is a size 6 and up. So that gives you an idea of where the fashion industry is. But basically a curve model, body positive model. And for me, what that has done is it's given me the opportunity to be the woman in the magazines that I didn't get to see growing up. And through becoming a plus size model, I was able to shift my body image in a really positive way and learn a lot of tools in the last 10 years that I've been in the plus size community that have helped me and that have helped a ton of women and men that I work with. So that's sort of the foundation today. I can really confidently say that I feel really good in my body. I'm 5'10", I wear a size 12, usually 14, sometimes 12. And I feel good, and it's not perfect. I don't think any of us ever have perfect days. That's not what I'm striving for. I'm always striving for progress, not perfection. But I know the way it used to weigh me down, and I know the freedom I feel now, and I feel like I really want to share that with people. So thank you to everyone showing up. Kelly, Drew, Caitlin, Bridget, Awesome. So I'm going to go through these 10 tips, you guys. If you have questions as we go, let me know, and I'd be happy to answer them. So the first thing, and one of the most powerful things for me, was adjusting my media consumption. So I started paying attention to social media and who I was following. And the way that this happened at first was probably about 8 years ago when I got into the plus size modeling industry, and I started following other women on social media who looked like me and were celebrating their bodies and themselves in a positive way. And so what happened was I gradually recreated my normal. So my normal eventually became, because I was seeing all these women who looked like me in my news feed, and I was seeing their bodies and their imperfections and whatever it was, things that my stomach or my thighs or whatever it was, I was seeing people celebrate that in themselves. And it like tapped my subconscious, and I recreated the way that I felt about my body because I saw that in the media, right? So we forget sometimes how much power we have over controlling what we consume. When I was struggling with my eating disorder, I had to stop reading magazines. The fashion magazines were like super triggering for me. So don't underestimate what the impact that the media that we consume is having on our lives. So excited for your wisdom. Huge struggle. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's a struggle for so many of us. So that's why I was really excited to do this video. So paying attention and comparison that comes up. So maybe you're not following influencers and celebrities on here and it's just other people in your life, but pay attention to the comparison game, because even when it's not so obvious in your face, maybe you have a supermodel and it's obvious, you might compare yourself to this person, right? But maybe it's another mom in your community or a family member, and every time they post something, it triggers you, or it sparks comparison and you start comparing yourself. Don't put yourself in that situation. We have control over not putting ourselves there. So let me see. You said, would you share some other body positive women's Instagrams you follow? Of course. So let me think. Some people that I love. Iskra, Iskra. She does a really good job with body positivity. Oh, there's a new girl who I love following. She's a mom. Her name's, it's The Bird's Papaya. The Bird's Papaya. Bo Stanley's a girlfriend of mine. She's a pro surfer who got turned down a lot in the beginning of her career, and for not fitting sample sizes. So she lost out on a lot of sponsorships that allowed her to be a pro surfer. Some weird noises coming. And so, but that's Bo Stanley, Bostanley. Let me think other people. Jessamyn, Jessamyn. She's really positive in the yoga community. Tess Holiday is a friend of mine. She's done a lot in this space, body positivity. Sarah Sapora, a dear friend of mine. Sarah, it's Sarah Sapora. I absolutely love Sarah. Some of you have heard her speak in my New Year group. She is just an icon when it comes to body positivity. She's a Kundalini yoga teacher, and just really wanting to show women that they are capable of doing things at any size. So I hope that's helpful. Some good ones in there. Okay, number 2. So if you're just joining us, I'm going through 10 sort of suggestions for cultivating a little more self-love and body positivity. So number 2, find the positive things in your healthy habits that aren't just related to your body. So what I mean by this is working out, right? Don't just work out because you're going to think you're going to lose weight or it's going to give you a 6-pack. Find the reasons why you do any of these sort of healthy habits. Find reasons that aren't attached to your body or your physical body, or I guess body image, and find other positive reasons to do these things. So for me, I exercise because it gives me more energy, right? Or I eat a certain way because it gives me mental clarity, or my skin feels like clears up, or those sorts of things. So things that aren't attached to your weight. Can you guys think of, and give me some examples maybe in the comments here, of things, healthy habits that you do that are not related to body positivity? And that's, you guys understand what I'm saying, into weight, into body, that sort of thing. Will you write down, so I think if you ever asking about the body positive influencers, yes, I will have Erin share like a screenshot, and we'll tag a few of my favorites here in the stories after this. So you can sleep. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So there's a lot of different healthy things that we can do for ourselves that don't necessarily have to be related to weight loss or the way we look. Yeah, stress relief. Great, Drew. Awesome. Erin says thumbs up, so she'll make sure we get that posted in the stories. So number 3, remember that everyone is not thinking about you. So I hate to break that news to you guys, but I remember being in probably middle school, high school, and we lived in a beach town. So I'd go to the beach, and the whole time I would obsess over thinking that everyone on the beach was looking at me and making fun of me, that I shouldn't have been wearing the swimsuit I was wearing. And what it turns out is I think as you get older, you learn this, is no one's thinking about you. That's the truth. It's just us that's thinking about us. Everyone else is just obsessing with themselves and what they think other people are thinking about us, right? So I hate to break it to you, because you are special, and I am thinking about you right now, and I love you in all the positive ways. But the truth is, all the energy we spend thinking about how much people might be thinking about us is just exhausting, and it's just not the case. So just remember that, right? Everyone's like, totally me. Yeah, we do. For me, I'm learning that lesson over and over again in Japan now, right? Because I'm going out to eat and I don't speak the language, and I try and say things in Japanese, and then everyone laughs, and then I hear the waiter like shouts to the rest of everyone else how I said arigato or arigato or something, and like I did a thumbs up, and he told everyone at the sushi bar, it's like, thumbs up, so I don't know. And I'm sitting there, and I'm wondering the whole time, are they talking about me? Are they making fun of me? And it was such a reminder as I wrote this note down that not everyone's thinking about me all the time. And if they are, I can almost promise you it's a lot more loving than we assume. So number 4 is practicing affirmation. So if you're just joining us, let me just regurgitate. We're going through 10 different body positive self-love things. So the first one is just paying attention to your consumption in your social media. Like, what do you consume? What are your visuals? Who are you comparing yourselves to? Follow people who look like you, or who are celebrating the things that you see as flaws. They're celebrating them, because you can reprogram your subconscious. Number 2, find the positive things in your healthy habits. So say you're working out, don't think about, I'm just working out for flat abs and to lose weight. Think about, I'm working out because it gives me mental clarity, or it gives me more energy. And number 3 is that not everyone is thinking about you all the time. So you can surrender the fact that we're all just thinking about ourselves and concerned about that in a lot of cases. So number 4 is affirmations. A lot of you, if I've worked with you before, or we've done things before, I'm a big advocate for affirmations. If you do follow me, my profile is at Danika Brysha. I post affirmations every single morning. Now, affirmations are I am statements, or positive statements that are meant to reprogram our mindset. So I start the morning with different affirmations, and basically what I do is I say statements that may not feel true in my life right now, but that I want to be true, right? So when I was living in my parents' garage, 6 figures in debt, I would say, money flows to me faster than I can keep track of. I would repeat that. Or when I was struggling more with my food and body, I said, I have a peaceful relationship with food. I love my body. I am healthy. I am in my healthiest body. I choose nothing that doesn't serve me physically, emotionally, or spiritually. So think of some I am statements, and maybe you guys can put some in the comments here. What are some positive, and so if you're familiar with this and you guys have a few, share them here, because there's other people watching who would love to hear some more ideas. So if you have some body positive or self-love affirmations that you love, if you can put them in the comments, that would be amazing. But yeah, it's just waking up, and whether you write it in your journal or you just say them out loud or you say it in front of a mirror, just thinking of a few sentences that reprogram the negative thoughts in your mind, because we can only have one thought at once, right? We're either thinking something positive or we're thinking something negative. So for me, what I've learned to do really in this process of programming my thoughts is every time a negative thought comes up, I can say love. So I did this, I was doing an experiment. I was trying to really pay attention to where I was judging people. So anytime I made a judgment, it wasn't mean, it was just our typical judgment process, right? As human beings. And every time I would go and I would think something, I would go love. And I would say it, and it's almost like I would stomp on a thought that didn't serve me with the word love, right? So maybe you guys can think of that stomp out word and what that could be that could help you to come back to love, or it can help you come back to confidence, right? So every time you catch yourself thinking, I shouldn't be wearing this sort of outfit, right? Think about, you could have another statement that says, I'm enough. Or I am worthy, or I'm beautiful. Okay, so there's a few affirmations in here. Thank you guys for sharing. So Ali Anthony said, I am worthy just because of who I am, not because what I can do or how I look. Yes, beautiful. And Sophia said, I am enough. Yeah, and sometimes it's as simple as that. I am enough, I am worthy, I am happy, I am light, I am beautiful, whatever it is. And I know it sounds cheesy, you guys, but I can promise you this stuff works. Because our thoughts become our reality, right? Everything starts as thought energy. So if we can change the way we think, we can change the experience that we have. Number 5 is practicing service. So this is a big one. Often when we're stuck in the mindset of thinking about our body and thinking about what people think of us or what we should be wearing or how we feel, it's because we're stuck in us. And I have to learn this over and over and over. But when I'm stuck in me and my body image and all this stuff, the best thing I can do is be of service to someone else. What friend can I call up and say, how are you doing? How can I get out of myself? So really remember that, that if you're stuck in this sort of self, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, you're stuck in this sort of self tunnel in this negative space. How can I get outside of myself? How can I help someone? Whether you volunteer, whether you shoot a text to someone, whether you go and leave positive comments on people's pages, whatever you can do to get out of yourself and into serving someone else in a positive way will get you right out of that negative mindset. So let me see. Have you ever worked with big and tall models? I do. Well, I work with plus models because that's my space, and then my partner is a big and tall men's model as well. So Karen said negative self-talk. Yeah, whenever I think of something, Lemon and Fig said, whenever I think of something mean about myself, I try to notice something positive about someone around me. Beautiful. That's such good advice. I love that. So yeah, get outside of ourselves, whatever we can do, and even better, be of service. So number 6 is gratitude. Make a list of your gratitude for your body. If you can get up and walk around during the day, right? If you can easily take a shower, if you're able to hike or you're able to swim, or you're breathing, or your skin looks great. Like, what are the places that you can celebrate and be grateful for your body, right? One of the tools that's really helpful is to write a love letter to yourself, and just write a thank you letter for all that your body has carried you through in this life. There's something that one of my girlfriends said to me, and it stuck with me forever. And I guess this was like 10 years ago, and she had said to her dad, I think it was after the 4th of July or something, and she had said to her dad, she was just not feeling good. She just she had been sort of partying and celebrating the last few days. And I guess her dad said, well, did you have fun? And she was like, well, yeah. And he told her, well, then you're just carrying your party around with you. That's so fun. And I thought that was so great and so silly, but it's like, okay, you're just carrying your fun around with you, right? And so it's just a reminder to allow that joy and allow that letting yourself sort of not be so hard on ourselves. We spent a lot of time, I'm willing to bet most of us have spent a lot of time being really, really hard on ourselves. So let's see. Lemon, she said, whenever I think of something mean, we read, yeah, awesome. And then Metch said, how long of a time did it take you to work yourself out of an eating disorder? So really good question. And I'm just going to start by saying I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. So obviously there's a lot of resources out there that can help in that way, and it's a very serious thing. For me, it probably took, 10 years. I would say it was about 10 years in different capacities. So I stopped throwing up, but I was binge eating, but I was binging, right? And then restricting. And then it was just food rules that I had. And it didn't feel so much like an eating disorder. It was a little more discreet, but I was still obsessing. So it took me a long time, and I healed my own eating disorder probably through just a lot of self-care. And it did have to do with changing how I ate in a certain capacity, because to a certain extent I had to have my brain functioning how it's meant to, right? And for me, the modern American food system that I grew up eating kept me in a real state of mental fog. And so when I changed how I ate, changed what I ate, it gave me a lot of mental clarity that allowed me to cognitively look at the way I was dealing with food and body, and seek out resources that could help me and start understanding my behaviors more, and paying attention to, okay, when I reach for food and I'm not hungry, I'm hungry for something else. What is that something else? And really paying attention to mindfulness and going inward. So I hope that helps. Self-care, and this is one of the points we'll get to. Actually, it's my next point, so we'll just go to it, is people ask me a lot about how to cultivate some more self-love, because it feels really vague, right? It doesn't feel like this thing that we can take all this really obvious action on, but we can. And it's the fact that self-love is created through self-care. And so that's why I'm such an advocate for self-care, is that I know when I take action on things, whether it's getting a full night's sleep or taking something off my calendar to eliminate stress, when I remove these things from my life and practice self-care, there's a subconscious message system going to me that says I am worthy of taking care of. When I eat healthy food, when I prioritize getting healthy movement in, when I say no, when I set boundaries, those sorts of things, when I prioritize those things and I practice self-care, sorry, my notes shut off here, then I tell myself subconsciously that I am worthy of self-love. So for me, if you're struggling with self-love, try thinking about some actions of self-care that you can do that can really help you in that space. So take actions that affirm to your body that you are worth taking care of. Getting enough sleep, movement that feels good to you, foods that help you thrive, eliminating stress. Let me see how... Barb said, love letter to yourself. What a great idea. And that can be whatever you want. It can just be a few sentences, a couple paragraphs, but just a thank you letter. Like the amount of times we beat up on our bodies. And you know what I've also found is that and there's no shame in us being concerned about how we look and how what our bodies look like or whatever, because it feels like us, right? But for me, I started associating a lot more with my soul than my physical body, and forgive me for being a little woo-woo right now, but the more I associate with being a soul that can't be harmed and can't be removed, it can't be touched, and less with the physical body, the more freedom I've had, right? And so there's so much going on out there in this world, and there's so much pain and so much joy as well, but there's so much going on, and the more I get outside of myself and I realize that, the more I feel like what a luxury it is to be able to worry about what kind of food I put in my body, and there's so many people who don't even get to, who worry if they're going to have food to put in their body, right? And so I think the more that I practice getting outside of myself, while still honoring that my challenges are real and they might be different than other people's, but they're still real, and my feelings are real and my emotions are real. So I hope that kind of helps. I went on a tangent there, but yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Shani. So Mebiello, I don't know how I'm saying that. She said, just started therapy a few weeks ago for self-care, help, and self-love in general. What are a couple simple things that you do every day to help you with that? Okay, cool. So a lot of what I was talking about here, I'm really intentional with who I follow on social media. We're going to share in our stories a list of some of my favorite people to follow in that space. So really intentional about that. I have a self-care routine. I always getting enough sleep is a really big one for me. Some sort of movement, whether I'm walking, and then I'm really big on shifting mindset. So I practice affirmations, gratitude, manifesting, all that sort of stuff. And then Tara said, can you please post the list of the 10 points for self-love? Erin, yes, I will send these over to Erin, and we'll post these somewhere. We'll get them somewhere. Okay, number 8. So if you're just joining us, I'm just going to refresh you guys. I'm just going through 10 different tips for self-love and body positivity here. Feel free to chime in and share and whatever as we go. So number 8 is to set goals based on how you want to feel. So an author that I really love, her name's Danielle Laporte. She talks about setting your goals in life based on how you want to feel versus what you want, right? So instead of saying, I want a fancy sports car, you think about, okay, well, why am I wanting a fancy sports car? Is it because I want to feel important? So the real thing is your feeling is I want to feel important, right? And then you can make a list under each of those desired feelings of things you can do to feel that way, right? So rather than saying, I want to lose 50 pounds, which by the way, there's an interesting conversation in the space of body positivity where some people are being negative about people's desire to want to lose weight. And in many cases, that may serve you, right? If it's going to give you a more enjoyable life, if you're going to feel better and your health is going to be, if everything's going to be better, then by all means, it's individual to each person. And so anyway, it's just setting goals based on how you want to feel. How do you want to feel? Not I want to lose 30 pounds, but what would 30 pounds do for you? How would you feel? If you would feel lighter or freer, you can type, I want to feel freer. I want to feel lighter. And you can think of different ways that you can achieve that. Barb said, I'm 61, 5 years ago, lost almost 100 pounds, been a size 6 since, and I still complain about my body every day. I need this talk big time. Yeah, so first of all, Barb, thank you so much for sharing that, because that's a really important thing that I think is worth noting. So many of us are on this journey of like, when I get there, when I lose the weight, I'm going to be happy. When I do the thing or meet the person or make the money, I'm going to be happy. And I would say 9 times out of 10, it's not the case. It's that journey that's fun for us, right? And I have many, many friends in this modeling industry who are supermodels. They're the thin, what these women, and they struggle every single day with their body. So there's no finish point. So if you can figure out how to find body positivity right now, and whatever your body is right now, whether you have weight to lose or weight to gain or whatever it is, or you're great how you are, if you can find body positivity right now, you can carry that with you no matter what size you're at. And I think that's the most beautiful thing, is you can start coming at it from this purpose of self-love. And like I said, wanting to thrive. What are the other positive reasons that I work out or that I eat this way, other than just weight loss or a lean body or whatever it is? So thank you for sharing that, Barb. And congratulations on all your hard work. That's incredible. Tara said, what book by her would you recommend? So, Danielle Laporte. So Danielle Laporte, I love her book, The Firestarter Sessions. It's an orange book, and I really highly recommend it. And I also recommend, if you're going to read it, like, have a pen and answer all. There's like a lot of questions. It's kind of like doubles as like a workbook and a book. So it's called The Firestarter Sessions by Danielle Laporte. And I would just write the questions in there. Let me see. I always reminded myself that I may not want to work out, eat right, but I always remind myself how I feel. Exactly. And for me, something that really helps, because I'm overwhelmed all the time and really easily, is I commit to like 5 minutes of things. So if I'm 5 minutes of movement or 15 minutes of movement, and that's fine. And sometimes I do longer, and sometimes that's all I get. But for me, even just, I know that if I even took 5 minutes to do some squats and stretches in my hotel room, I would feel better for the day, because I just told myself I'm a healthy person with healthy habits. That's something Melissa Hartwig, that's like a phrase Melissa Hartwig was using at Brunch Series when she spoke in Salt Lake City last year. She was saying, telling yourself, I am a healthy person with healthy habits. I am a healthy person with healthy habits. It's a great opportunity to use that affirmation. So yeah, really awesome, you guys. Two Mamas, Two Kiddos. She said, what is the author's name? So Daniel, oh, you got it. Okay, Daniel Part. Okay, so let's see. We're on number 9 here. So number 9, I have focused on mindfulness. Diet culture has taught us that our bodies can't be trusted to guide us to what's best for us. The more we practice mindfulness, meditation, presence, feeling our feelings, tasting our food, the more we can respect the signals and signs that our body is giving us. So for me, mindfulness has been huge in my recovery process, in my body image process, my self-love process. It's just that ability to tune in and use my internal cues. So if you're someone like me who has spent most of their life with food rules or being on a diet, what I found is that the messaging there is that I can't be trusted. My body's internal cues and system can't be trusted to give me the messaging I need. So I need to look outside of myself for an answer. And I need to ignore what my body's telling me. And so what happens is we disconnect. We disconnect from the symbols, whether it's from hunger or stress or our intuition. We disconnect from trusting our body to guide us throughout our life. And what happened was, it took me about 30 years, but I got to a point, I did a therapy called ISTDP, and there's some really great therapies out there. I know EMDR has been really helpful for a lot of people, and CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. But I went to therapy, and I really learned how to stay in my body again and feel my feelings. What does anxiety feel like? What does anger feel like? What does joy feel like? What is, and like really learning, okay, these feelings feel this way in my body. And so I'm going to, and now I can like navigate them and pay attention to them. And what happened is, when I started trusting my body again, and I started practicing mindfulness, even if it's meditation, 5 minutes a day, when I started doing that, I realized that I had this internal compass and this internal navigation system that didn't steer me wrong. Like, that I could trust with 100% when my body was telling me things. And I took that and I went out into the world, and my whole world opened up, because I knew what to say yes and no to. It wasn't this situation of, oh, like, what should I do in this? If someone asked me how I felt before, I would look at the situation and I would say, how should I feel? Versus tapping into myself and saying, how do I feel? And so mindfulness is what cultivates that. And when we can stay in our body and pay attention to the cues, you better believe we're going to make food choices and movement choices and romantic choices and emotional choices that serve us feeling good. But the reason we make choices that hurt ourselves all the time is because we're not connected to our body. So we make choices that hurt ourselves. We don't actually feel the hurt. We don't follow it. And when our body tells us again, when we're about to make that choice again, that it's going to hurt us, we're disconnected. So mindfulness brings us back to that. And the final thing is to find final tip, number 10, is to find beauty and trust that we're all different. What works for one person doesn't work for everyone. There's not a right or wrong way of doing things, and there's not one thing that's going to probably work for you forever. So, for example, black and white thinking, structure, Whole30, whatever, can serve you really well in some situations. And then in other situations, you might need total freedom, right? And so my point in saying that, I have friends who are vegan and feel amazing, and that works for them, right? I have friends that are paleo or keto, and it works for them and they feel great. And then I have friends that have done both, and they felt good when they did this, and then they stopped feeling great. And so they switched to this, and they felt good, and they stopped feeling great. So that's the beauty of our human experiences, that we're all different. And instead of searching outside for like the next fad or the next thing to tell us how we feel and to tell us what's going to make us feel good, why not go inward and say, oh, I noticed that when I eat these foods, soy, gluten, hashtag Japan right now. I mean, I'm doing it, but I feel hungover permanently when I eat those things. But you can pay attention more to how those foods affect you, right? I spent my whole life numb. I spent my whole life on the modern American food system, or the standard American diet, that numbed my brain. It numbed my consciousness and the way my brain worked. And so as a result, I couldn't connect this to this. And so I didn't know that every time I ate Funyuns and a Snickers ice cream bar, it was hurting myself, because I didn't feel it. I was disconnected from my body. So I followed the shoulds, I followed the marketing, I followed all that sort of stuff. So I hope that resonates with a lot of you. So one of the things that I wanted to read, that's right. So one last resource, if you haven't heard of Janine Roth, she's an author who has really been a huge influence in my life. She's a really positive voice in this space of body positivity and self-love, and especially food relationships. She has a quote that I love, and I wanted to share it with you guys as we sort of wrap this up. I'm a couple of minutes over here. But she says, this is Janine Roth, she says, for some reason, we are truly convinced that if we criticize ourselves, the criticism will lead to change. If we are harsh, we believe we will end up being kind. If we shame ourselves, we believe we end up loving ourselves. It has never been true, not for a moment, that shame leads to love. Only love leads to love. Yeah, so good, right? So Janine Roth is an author. She has a book called Women, Food, and God. So if you're looking for another resource, especially if you've struggled with food for a long time and food rules, I could not recommend her more. Women, Food, and God by Janine Roth. It's not a super spiritual book, so don't think by the title that that's the case. It's just sort of talks about spirituality in general, so it's not a religious book. Let me just see the last comments and then we will wrap this up. But if you guys have questions, you can add them now. Elizabeth said, how do you keep yourself from binge eating? For me, it's not restricting food. So it took me a long time to realize that. But I was binging when I was having all these food rules and restrictions. And so for me, what I do is I really intentionally tell myself I can eat whatever I want. And I put the power back in my own hands to make choices that serve me. And sometimes I don't. And sometimes I eat like crap and I feel like crap. And I relearn the lesson, and I'm again reminded of why I put the effort in to eat clean most of the time, or eat a certain way that I do most of the time. So for me, I found that the binge eating was directly correlated to the restriction, as well as a lack of self-care. So I really manage my lifestyle in a way that I avoid unnecessary stressors, right? What are the things I can control? I can control the sleep I get for the most part. And I know that's not true for everyone. Some of you have little kids. Some of you are working multiple jobs. Some of you but pay attention where you can really control things. So the sleep, what I put in my mouth, the way that I think, the people I hang around, the projects I take on, the amount of time I leave for play, and I'm not perfect with it, but that really, really helps me, is to manage my environment as much as I can. I always say, there was a part of me as I was in recovery who thought, well, I want to have a bag of cookies in my house, something sugary in my house, just to know that I can't have it, like testing myself to prove that I was healed, right? And I thought about that. I'm like, why do we make things harder on ourselves? What's the point, right? There's no point. If I really want something sweet, then I can go out and get it. But having it in my house and letting it linger and calm me, I just don't make things hard on myself. I really I'm more gentle, and that's taken me a long time, and I'm still working on it, but really just learning to be a little more gentle with yourself is really helpful. Gluten and grains make my anxiety and depression crazy flared. When I eliminate it, I feel better and can connect with my deepest self. Honoring my body with food helps so much. Absolutely. And it can feel tricky if you struggle with food to know, it's not about what you eat, but it also is, because what we eat actually has such an impact on our emotional health and our, like, the way our minds function. And so that's a really great point. When I eat this way, I'm emotional. Like, I literally was an emotional wreck. I had a call with my coach and I was like crying, getting my period, all that stuff. And it's because when I eat, it changes my moods dramatically. And so for me, the greatest gift that I can give to people in my life, like, for example, Billy, my partner, he works so hard now, to be sober and to work on himself. And for me to do the same for him, right? Because if I show up and I'm eating a bunch of junk all the time and I feel my mental state, my brain, my emotions are all over the place, then all my loved ones are feeling the repercussions of that. So I try and find balance. I'm traveling right now. I'm going to try all the food. I'm by no means going to travel and not embrace the culture and experience that. But it's taken me a long time. And if you're not there yet, don't feel shame about that, because our food relationships are deeply rooted and long-term, and yeah, they just take time. So let me see here. Thank you guys for all your love here. Thank you. I'm so glad this was helpful. Mary Popovici, which I totally said wrong. Would you give up modeling if your natural tendency wasn't to be skinny? I wouldn't give it up. I would say find your place in the industry. I think that we can, I think at any size we can work in the modeling industry, or not even the modeling industry. I think create your own place. Tess Holliday is a beautiful example of that. If you don't follow her, you should. Tess Holliday, and she created a space for herself because she didn't see someone 5'2" and her size in the modeling industry, and she wanted to be in it. So I love it. But I would say don't manipulate your size for anything. Like, just focus on being the healthiest version of yourself, and know that what you're looking for and what you're wanting to attract will find you when you're natural. That's how I became a model, is because I surrendered, and I surrendered into the body that I meant to have. And that's when I got approached at Bank of America by some agents and signed with an agency after I spent 10 years trying to lose weight to be a model. So please start doing these lives again. Oh, thank you, Barb. Thank you guys. Awesome. I'm so glad. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I went a few minutes over here. Erin is the face behind the Model Meals page, so give her some love for sure, because she works really hard on this. And we will make sure that we tag some of those the body, she's thumbs up. Yeah. We will make sure we tag some of those body positive influencers and figure out a way to get some of these tips down so you can reference them. So just make sure you're following the Model Meals page, and we'll get there in there. I don't know how to say goodbye in Japanese yet, so I'll just say goodbye. Bye, you guys. Have a good night.